After Hours.
On this episode of the History of the Corps After Hours podcast, we discuss the band from Boston, Massachusetts, known as Vanna. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at IsSurvivedByPro for news and latest episode postings. And make sure to subscribe to the show, leave us a 5-star review, and write us a comment on YouTube or whatever podcast service you're using. Make sure to check us out on TikTok and give us a follow at IsSurvivedByProductions. And if you'd like to see us do some live streams, leave us a comment or tweet us the keyword stream. Now, without further ado, let's start the show.
The devil is in Atlanta, army surrounded.
Welcome back to the History of the Corps After Hours podcast, where each and every episode, I, Curtis, sit down with my good friend and avid listener to the History of the Corps podcast, Erik. What's up, Erik?
The temperature.
My goodness.
It's a little spicy out.
Man, I was just out there putting that stuff in the dumpster. I'm sure you saw me. It was not dumpster diving, by the way. I was contributing to the dumpster, not taking stuff away. And I just standing there. Of course, we're standing on concrete, but it's hot, bro. How do people survive this living out in the streets in the summertime, man?
It is.
I don't get it.
Man, it's wild.
It's brutal. I think my temperature gauge on my truck's at like almost 112, 111.
I believe it.
Oh, man. I'm so ready for fall.
Amen.
And the bad thing is, like, we'll get to fall, we'll get here, and it'll be over before we know it. And then we'll get to winter. It's like, man, I'm ready for summer. And then you and I have had this discussion before. You know where I'm going with this one. Yeah.
It's
the
a vicious
nudist
cycle.
The nudist church is where we ended up after that conversation. Man, I still love that conversation. That's one of those. It's one of those fun ones where you look back and you're like, how in the world did we get from talking about temperatures to, I wonder if there's such a thing as a nudist church. It happens, people.
The mind of a child is a wondrous thing.
That's what happens on these podcasts that we do. Let's get on into it, Erik. So today in this episode, we're going to talk about the band known as Vanna. But before we start getting into the Vanna questions, the first question I have is more directed at Josh because we've been getting questions from him. He wants to know, what is our fascination with the, quote, post-rock, which is instrumental music that you and I both enjoy? So if you could, for the audience and for Josh, describe what listening to post-rock instrumental does for you personally.
So it leads you through a feeling. So I wrote down a couple examples. They're not post-rock, they're classical.
Okay.
But they're good examples that everybody probably knows, like Flight of the Bumblebee. You can feel the bee flying around in your ear, and it's just going here and there and hither and yon, and you're feeling that bee fly around. You can feel it fly. Mm-hmm. Another one is William Tell Overture. That whole thing, you can just feel that horse, the hooves pounding the earth as it's running past you, and
right.
I mean, there's a feeling there that you can feel. Those are just overtly obvious, is why I like those ones.
Right.
But
it's a good foundation. Still.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, they lead you in, they make you feel something.
Okay.
Animals as Leaders, they have a song, I think it's called Physical Education.
Okay.
And it almost makes me feel like, in PE back in school, the day we're playing dodgeball or something, that feeling of dread, that feeling of, I got to throw this ball and nail him in the head, that kind of, it just brings those feelings to your head, and you're like, wow, how can a song with no lyrics do that?
Right.
And it's also great background music. You've talked about how,
yes.
studying for even like this, writing down my notes for Vanna here.
Yep.
Fantastic. Just have some background music just going back there. Keep you nice and calm. It just feels good. And then my last note, sometimes a vocalist can just kill a song.
Do you have an example?
Oh, there are some bands like in the past that I've said, Music's fantastic.
Yes.
But I don't like their vocalist.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably catch a little hate off of this one, but like August Burns Red. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of his vocals.
Come on, man.
I'm just not. I don't know what it is.
I get it. No,
they don't hit real well for me.
Yeah, I get it.
But their music, they are fantastic.
So good. Oh yeah.
Like I think they recently went back and redid
Rescue.
Yeah, it was one of their older ones.
Well, I think they just re-released Rescue as like a. I don't think they re-recorded it. I think the one that they re-recorded not so long ago was Leveler.
That sounds about right.
And I'll tell you, I don't like his vocals on that.
Well, no, but
Leveler.
I don't like his vocals anyway, so.
I'm just saying that. Since we're talking about Leveler.
Anyway, like I know their music is just absolutely phenomenal, but
sure.
his vocals, they just don't hit with me.
Okay.
And I mean, sometimes that can be that way.
Yeah.
I don't know that their songs would do it for me as far as, just take his vocals out and call it a day, or if that would feel like karaoke.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I could see, because they're pretty technical music-wise, so I could see possibly. And they have some instrumental songs. The first one that comes to mind is it Meridian, I think?
I think so.
Of Constellations.
That sounds right.
That's a good one. Now, there is a small vocal part in there, yes. But, I mean, other than that, it's like they are trying to tell you a story through their music.
Right. I mean, it's like Metallica has almost... What do they have, 4 of them?
What's that?
Of instrumentals. Is it 3 or 4?
Oh, I don't know right off the top of my head. The first one I can think of is off of Injustice for All. Was that... is it Die?
To Live Is to Die?
No, To Live Is to Die. There you go.
There's a speaking part in that one.
Yeah.
And then in the very first one they did off of Kill 'Em All, their bass solo, Take One, and then he starts in. Yeah. So there's a little talking part, almost every one of theirs.
Right.
But they are considered instrumentals.
Right.
They're not lyrics per se. They're talking, I guess. Anyway.
I'll bring one up because Josh had mentioned this before, and I don't even remember why we were talking about this. The band, I'll probably catch some heat on this one. The band Disturbed. Great musicians. The vocalist could do without. And we could just live with the instruments and call it a day, man, because they're good musicians. And I'm not saying he's a bad vocalist, but
it just doesn't hit for you.
I could do without that,
right?
Man. Yeah.
And then I've had some songs that I'm just listening along to, thinking, this is pretty good. Music wise, it's fantastic. Mm-hmm. So far the vocals are doing it for me, and then the lyrics kick in, and I'm like, what's he talking about?
Right.
This is awful. Like that doesn't resound with me at all.
Right.
And I don't know. That's just one of those things that lyrics and vocalists both can absolutely murder a song.
Well, and kind of going off of what you're saying is like the guy or girl comes in vocally, and you may not agree with their lyrics, or I don't know, I'm not with that or whatever. That's with the vocalist. If you just have instruments are for everybody.
Amen.
we're on everybody's team, man. We don't. Yeah. So. Yeah.
And not being said, not every instrumental does it for me either.
For sure not. Yeah. No.
So there's some instrumentals, like I said, it does lead you through a kind of feeling. Mm-hmm. There's some instrumentals I got to be in the mood for.
Right.
There's others that, regardless of what mood, I'm like, this is going to make me feel good. I like this song. So, yeah.
Yeah. For me too, it's like I know some people, and I'm sure Josh is probably one of these people too. It's like he's doing some notes for like a podcast episode, and he's got, impending doom on or something in the background. And for me, it's like, I can't really do that because then I want to sing along to the songs or scream along to the songs, whatever.
In that case.
Whereas like, just listening to an instrumental song, it's like, I can just let that go and just kind of let it go all around me and engulf me.
Yes.
While I'm just focused on what I'm trying to do. So. Cool. Hopefully that answers your question, Josh.
Or brings more up.
Either
way.
Leaves you more confused. Who knows? That's why you have a small section on the History of the Chorus podcast to ask questions like that or give us your comments. So start writing your notes down now. Okay, so here we go. That question behind. Let's talk about the band Vanna. So Erik, as always, I want to ask you, how were you introduced to Vanna?
I was thinking about it, and I would think it was probably you.
Yes, for the win.
Back in like probably the Search Party days or like Curses.
Yeah, I think Search Party was my first one.
That's either one because I really remember like it was back in the Zune days.
Oh.
You and Josh got finished talking about your old Zunes.
Yep.
And a dead language for a dying lady seems really familiar when I listened to it this first time around.
Yeah.
And then Vanishing Orchestras also seem familiar. So I don't know if we jump from one to the next. You were just showing me cool stuff, or I don't know if I happened across Vanishing Orchestras later.
Shuffle or something, yeah.
But both of those seem really familiar to me.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. So you'd say Search Party Curses is where you're introduced.
That would be somewhere in that era, I bet.
It's a great place to start, man.
I
this
agree.
is definitely one of those bands where it's like start from. I mean, obviously they have some demos before Search Party, but it's definitely one of those like start from the beginning of this band and go from there. Whereas some other bands, you can kind of skip the first, one or two because they're more just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, Vanna definitely.
They hit
Search
hard
Party,
from the start.
To me, it's like Search Party never even really felt like an EP. It feels like they've already been in it for a while.
yeah.
This is like a full length. It's just
Absolutely.
a short full length.
It is a short one, but I think out of their top 5 on Spotify, 2 of them are still from Search Party. So I thought that was pretty funny when I was looking through. I'm like, it's not even a full length album, and 2 of these off of this little EP still rocking hard.
I bet I could easily guess those. Dead Language and I Am the Wind, You Are the Feather. I mean, the whole EP is good, but
it changed a little.
Those two have to be the two that you're talking about.
So going from it, number 4 out of their top 5 is Dead Language.
Okay.
And then it changed, actually, it looks like since last time I looked. And I'm seeing that Flowers made the top 5 now.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Which that's that acoustic song, I believe.
I think there's an acoustic version. Is that the one that's on there?
It just says Flower.
Oh, okay. There's an acoustic ending to the original one. Yeah, but I think they also did an acoustic version.
What's funny is number 1 is Zero, and then number 3 is Fuel.
Come on, see, I don't like this. Look, okay, I got a beef because this is off topic. Well, it's kind of with this, but it's not. I was thinking about this the other day. I don't listen to the radio anymore, really, at all. But this whole deal of like that, where it's, I mean, obviously that's just Spotify,
Right.
but it's
their
just
algorithm.
a cover.
Yeah.
So how can that be like they're talking, like, let's talk about like the Billboard, top 100 or whatever. And the number 5 song is, we'll just use this one as an example, Vanna's cover of Smashing Pumpkins' Zero. It's like, how can that be though? You're getting famous off of somebody else's song. That's not right to me. That's just wrong. It feels dirty.
Well, I mean, there's what is her name? Let me come back to you. I'm going to do some Googling.
Well, the one that, when this first popped off for me, it was Weezer, and they did a cover of Africa's Toto. This was several years ago. And it was just like, that's all they would play on the radio from Weezer. Yeah, they'd still play every once in a while some of their older stuff, but it's like, you want to hear the new Weezer song? It's a cover from, Africa. It's like, no, you can't do that, people. Go make your own music. I don't care if you want to do some covers, but this whole deal, it's like, oh, we're going to get, really big and gain a lot more people off of this. And I'm like, come on.
Well, I don't know if that's, these people's idea, but Lauren Babick, she does a lot of covers. She's from Red Handed Denial.
Okay. At least her name sounds familiar.
Yeah. Red Handed Denial's been a good band. That's all their stuff.
Right.
But under her name, she does all sorts of covers.
Okay.
Like going from Toxic. Yes.
My.
1990 what? She's got one, If I'm James Dean, You're Audrey Hepburn.
Nice.
I mean, Telephone. She covered Telephone. That was actually with her band. She covered that.
Yeah.
But Welcome to the Black Parade. She's got all sorts.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm not against covers overall. It's just like this deal
and
where
they
it's
do
like
a lot of covers.
Just where you get this whole like ordeal of you're on. Oh, it's your song on the radio, and it's become. I don't know. I just don't like it. There was another one. I don't even remember who the band was. But this was like the first time that like I had heard them on local radio. But they did a cover of what's their name now? I can't even think what their name is. It's a band from like the 90s. The song was called Zombie. Yeah, I butchered that one up. But anyway, I mean, it's like that band, whoever they are, because I can't remember who they are, but it's like that's all they would play from that band. And then finally, after like a year or two later, they finally played like an original song from them, and it was terrible. And I'm like, well, I mean,
now you know.
When you bank on one cover song, yeah. So anyway, let's get back on track here because I threw us way off track. Okay, so brand new listener comes up to you, Eric, and he says, I want to check out this band, Vanna. What am I getting myself into? Can you describe what Vanna is all about musically?
So their early stuff to me reminds me a lot of like young Silverstein.
Okay.
And then, but with like screams and harsh vocals from like younger Under Oath.
Interesting. Okay.
Kind of the pairing together. It's
they had a baby.
Yeah, if you put them together, had a baby, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then that's like Search Party and Curses.
Okay.
And then once you get up into like their later albums, like All Hell and stuff like that,
right?
It's more like Bring Me the Horizon kind of vibes.
Okay.
I mean, we're not talking
older
exact
or newer?
Sympaternal era.
Okay.
So kind of in the middle.
Okay.
Started when he started to, calm down his harsh vocals so much. They weren't as, his early stuff was just so wild. Like, there it is, all up in your face.
Right.
When he started to calm down a little bit in that Sympaternal era,
okay,
kind of reminds me of that.
Okay.
And, the harsh vocals can kind of dive back a little bit into their older stuff just a little bit. Like, listening to some of his harsh vocals, like, it makes me, like, my throat hurt.
Right.
Listening to it sometimes, I'm like, oh my goodness. How does he not have laryngitis?
Do you hold on to your throat too while you're doing that? Oh my goodness. Oh man.
So yeah, that kind of how I'd describe him.
Okay. Cool. So did you know that there was four unclean vocalists in this band overall?
That did surprise me.
Okay. Yeah, and I always forget that they had the guy at the very beginning off of like their demo and I think their very first EP, not Search Party before that. His name was Joe Bragle. Wasn't around very long at all. And then you had he left, and then you had guitarist Nicholas Lambert. He decided, okay, I'll do unclean vocals on Search Party EP. For the time being, and then they got Chris Priest to do Curses and New Hope. Then he left, and then you had Davey Musey do the last few albums. And they came Bearing Bones, Few and Far Between, Void, and All Hail. Can you describe? We're still talking to the new listener here. Can you describe each vocalist and their style to this person?
So the very first one, I found one whole song on the old YouTube.
Okay.
And from what I was hearing, of course, it's, very first EP or whatever.
Right.
So it's very, very, very raw. The lows that he was hitting, which a lot of later stuff, they don't have a lot of lows. You got mids and kind of highs.
Right.
But the lows were almost kind of He Is Legend-ish.
Okay.
Like, it was kind of hit me. I was like, huh, that's a different sound.
Yeah.
There's not a lot that, low vocals that are in his range.
Right.
But it kind of had that feeling to it.
Okay.
Then you get into Nicholas Lambert and then Chris Priest, really both pretty similar overall.
I was going to ask you, I don't even remember if it made the... I mean, we can go ahead and couple this next question in with that. Because I was going to ask you if... I always felt like, for the longest time, I didn't realize that it was Nicholas Lambert doing vocals on the Search Party because it sounded to me like Chris Priest. And then when I finally realized, Chris isn't even on this EP, it's like, what?
Yep.
He's got some good vocals. Nicholas does, man.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, they were both pretty similar.
Yeah. Easy transition, too.
It is. It feels pretty good. It's not so stark, like, makes me stop, hard stop.
Right.
Like, what's this? Is this new?
Right.
But it's, I did notice when I was listening to it with a little bit more of a critical ear that we went from a very cupped sound, like he's cupping the microphone and he's just really hollering straight up in it, to a little bit more open sound.
I would agree.
Where he's more in a room with a microphone instead of being all up on top of a microphone. Or,
all up in its business.
Yeah, what was it you and Josh were talking about? Less making love to the microphone. It sounds like he's up in that area with Search Party. Oh, God. And then a little bit later, what's his name here? The
Davey.
Chris.
Oh, Chris.
Second one. It sounds like he came back away from the microphone for a minute. He's okay. And then getting into the last guy, Davey. We kind of talked about it a little bit. He does kind of have a little Bring Me Horizon type feel to it overall.
He kind of goes through his own little change, too, throughout a few of those albums. At least from... Oh, man, I mean, even from, like... And They Came Bearing Bones to The Few and Far Between, his vocals kind of changed just a little bit. And then, of course, by the time he gets to All Hell, it's way different. And even, like... Well, heck, if you just took I think it's called Honest Hearts EP, which was the first one that he was on... you take that one and compare it to his vocals on his last one, which was All Hell. I mean, totally different. He changed his style for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But, cool.
But yeah, mostly his later, once he matured, whatever you want to call that, blew out his throat. I'm not sure which. But it does have that kind of, Bring Me the Horizon type feel to it,
Yeah. You said making love to the microphone. It made me think, because I was listening to Seosin this week. That EP, the first one.
Yes.
Is it 7 years, I think, is what it's called?
I think
so. Yeah, that first one with Anthony Green. And all I could think of was Josh doing the impersonation of him live. And I just told him, I was like, just looks like he's just trying to make love to that thing, just like caress it and don't worry, baby, I'm going to take care of you. It's like...
That microphone is his instrument, and he loves it.
I love Anthony Green's vocals, man, but I'm serious, dude. That is one guy I don't think I could go see in concert anywhere. I mean, whether he's doing, Circus Survive, Seosin, or just doing like an acoustic solo set, I don't think I can go watch that dude try to make love to a microphone. Because that's basically what it is to me.
That would be an experience, I'm sure.
I'll just stick with the albums and listening in my truck. So, yeah. Okay, cool. So we covered 2 questions there. Nice. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Okay, on to the next question here. Josh described the album Curses as, quote, delicious. And, quote, the most southern feeling album from them. Do you agree? And how does this album hit for you, Eric?
So I'd say Curses is definitely the most southern to me too. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's not just because the sound overall of it or anything. Lyrically too, you're talking about, there's a song called Country Boys.
Right.
There's a song called We Ate the Horse. Mm-hmm. I mean, that sounds pretty old school southern sounding. Well, things got so bad, we done ate the horse.
Yep.
And, lyrically, there's a little bit going on there too.
Right.
I don't know about the word delicious, but maybe yummy.
That one was more just thrown in there because it just made me laugh. So,
but honestly, though, it is a close contender for my favorite full-length album of theirs.
Okay.
So,
okay,
pretty good stuff. I like it. I mean, it hits pretty good. Sound-wise, especially, it's a good album.
Yeah, and I told Josh this. I think one of the southern things. I'm not saying it's the end-all, be-all, but I think one of the things that contributed more to that southern sound is Chris Priest coming in on vocals because he's from Texas, which is really weird. It's like, how does a Texas guy get connected with guys from Massachusetts? And it's not like they're like a big, touring act yet. So it's kind of interesting how he got connected with them. But,
well, I'll have to wait for the documentary to see that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Okay, so sticking on the topic of the album Curses, you got any idea what's going on there? Can you give me your description of the album cover? Is there a story, in your opinion, that's maybe connected to the songs? Is it just, hey, we found this picture, or we just like it? Because that's one thing we were trying to figure out is, like, what in the world, like, what is this? We're trying to even figure out, like, what the picture is at the beginning. And then it's like, okay, we think we know what it is. It's like, okay, well, then you start thinking about the songs, and you're kind of like, is there a connection here? What is happening? I think Josh described it as like a guy. At least the guy was wearing like Pavarotti clothes, which is that's the one thing that always like was weird to me. Is like just looking at that album and being like, why is like she's all dressed up kind of in like old timey like 1800s clothing, you know, kind of English clothing maybe. And yeah, he's in like a Pavarotti suit. It's like, okay, what is happening here? Do you have any idea? Maybe this is just kind of like me and Josh have talked about it. I just want to hear like somebody else's opinion.
So it's hard to tell because I don't have a physical copy in my hands.
Okay, yeah. I almost brought you like a picture. I almost printed one off.
Well, I mean, I got a pretty good picture off of ye old Google.
Right.
And I was able to zoom it up real nice. But it's like a sepia tone, I guess you call that?
Yeah.
Sepia tone?
Sepia tone,
However you say that. So kind of brown and kind of gray. Well, not grays, I guess, but blackish brown colors in there.
Right.
But like you said, there's a woman who looks like she's really dressed up, you know, but she's like bound, it looks like, by her hands behind her back.
Okay.
And then the way he's like coming up to her, he is wearing very frilly, pretty clothing, I guess.
He's a fancy man.
He is quite the fancy man. But it almost looks like he is taunting her.
You know, it's funny. I'd never noticed it. You're saying that she looks like she's bound. I never really noticed that before. That's interesting.
I don't know if it looks like she's kind of bound, like there's
kind of looks like she's got something on her wrist,
like a collar around her neck. And
that
like,
too, yeah.
I don't know if it's a pretty little bracelet or if it's like bound behind her back there.
Interesting.
But reminds me of like the old movies and the old stuff where a lady gets tied to the train tracks.
Yeah.
And the bad guy is sitting there telling him, well, this is my entire plan and this is what's about to happen. And then, you know, of course, she gets out and foils the whole plan. But it just...
Hey, you spoiled it for me.
Oh. But that's kind of what really made me think of when I was looking at that. I was like, that almost looks like that old, you know, where the bad guy's telling the bound person who's not going to make it out alive, supposedly, here's my entire plan, you know.
Right.
So... And I guess going into the thought that could be pointing towards something on the album that kind of goes with that story, I guess. And a lot of lyrics actually could point to that.
Okay.
Like coming from the, quote, bad guy's perspective.
Okay.
I might be stretching a little bit. Cause
give me anything.
You can make lyrics just about say anything.
That's true, but that's the cool thing about music, man. They leave it up for the interpreter.
It is. But if you look at from... We Ate the Horse all the way to the end, those 3 songs there's a stretch there that really does feel like, you know, end games of a bad guy plan or something.
Okay.
Like, it kind of felt, I was sitting there reading it with that in mind. I was like, this could almost be a little concept-y.
Okay.
Now, before that, you could kind of see it if you were, you know, stretching some of those words a little bit. But those last 3, it felt like I could actually see, like, that playing into that. So that's me thinking. No,
I welcome it, man, because I'm just like at a loss. I think I'm to the point where I try not to go on Reddit because you never know what sometimes people are going to say on there, but or message boards or anything. But
Reddit is the Wild West.
I want to have face-to-face conversations first, you know, and then I think I'm to the point where it's like, okay, I'm really going to have to do some deep diving on this. Maybe go to the old Reddit and see if anybody's got any topics on it, because I'm so interested to know like what it is, like what is this, and then why, and then is it connected to something. So, but yes, thank you for that, because like I said, it's, you know, I just like to get somebody else's perspective on it besides what me and Josh have talked about. So okay, so I mentioned this to you before we started recording. We're adding something in here.
Oh no.
Throughout these episodes, I'm going to try to test Erik's knowledge with some trivia about the band that we're talking about, which we're talking about Vanna. So I got a couple of questions here for Erik. I'm going to ask one now, and then I'll ask one later on in the episode here. But here comes your first trivia question, Erik. We'll see if you can go 0 for 1 or 1 for 1 here. Okay, you ready?
Ready as I'm getting.
What state does Vanna come from? There's 52 of them, so, you know.
The funny part is you just said it, and the second singer came from Texas.
I did just say it, didn't I? That's the funny part, because it was like, in my mind, right before I asked it, I was like, I don't think I said this, so I think I'm really good. So
or second harsh vocalist, I should say, came from Texas. But oh nuts. Was it somewhere out on the eastern seaboard-ish area? Was it North Carolina?
No, sir. No, North Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina.
No,
oh,
it was
okay.
Massachusetts. Boston, to be exact.
Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, I did say that. And I either said Boston or Massachusetts earlier. I don't remember which one.
I think you said Boston boys.
Probably Boston boys.
But anyway.
Them Boston boys. Man, 0 for 1.
0 for 1. Feeling good.
Come on, man.
Ready to make a comeback.
All right, well, you got another question in this episode. We'll see what happens. See if we can go 50% on this episode.
Batting 500. I like it.
Man. Well, you're batting 0 so far, sir.
Well,
so go sit in the dugout.
I'll go swing.
Oh, boy. Okay. Onward and upward here. Back to the episode discussion questions. If I can get on the right one. Okay, cool. Okay. It's my opinion. This is my opinion. Okay. So I'm going to ask you what you think. Did Vanna die, quote unquote die, when the original member / clean vocalist / guitarist Evan Pharmacist left the band? What is your opinion?
Yes.
Thank you.
But I do get it. Continuing to use that name. It's
right.
established. They have a fan base. They already have that name out there. They already got record deals. They're not having to start from, point zero. They're starting from, somewhere.
Right.
And, I get it. But at the same time, the name Vanna means, what you've done already.
Right.
And if you're mixing that in with the new stuff, I don't know. It gets a little confusing as far as, it does feel like two bands here. They have two halves of a discography, and it feels completely different on both halves.
Right.
And, I don't know. I agree. The original band is gone at that point.
Right.
And the new band is here, and I guess they're here to stay, I guess. But I don't know.
Yeah. You're still left with, Nicholas Lambert at that point and Sean Marcus on bass. I know Nicholas was an original, but I can't remember if Sean was or not. I think he is. So, at least you still have that kind of like that foundation there. And I think if I was living in that moment and it was like, okay, Evan's gone, be like, okay, well, I'm okay with them, continuing on. But, looking at it now, well after Vanna's, disbanded overall and having, 3 albums after that, after his departure, it's like, it's just a different band because they just took it music or like genre-wise, they just kind of went in a different direction by the end of it. And it's like, this isn't Vanna, So that's where I'm kind of like, okay, I think if we could go back in time, I would suggest to the band at that point, okay, just kill Vanna. Just be done with it and start a new name. Start a new band. And I kind of wonder if, because, they came back with the original members, all came back together now, and they started a new band called In Spirit, right? And their description of what they want to go for is search party sound, but, better production, better quality, obviously they're older, so they know more and stuff like that.
Kind of elevate those lyrics and
right.
stuff.
So I kind of wonder if, why not use Vanna's name again if they just decided they felt like it got trashed too much. I don't know. Or if they just decided, no, we don't want to do that. We just want to restart overall. I don't know. Kind of interesting. But yeah, if it was me, I would go back knowing what I know now. I would go back there and be like, hey, look, can y'all just disband Vanna and just start a new name? Because you're going to get to a point where you're not Vanna, bro. So just my opinion. And I'm glad you agree with me.
I do.
I don't think I've come across anybody so far that hasn't had the same opinion.
Like you said, they are so diametrically opposed. They're so different. Right. And it'd be one thing if, they're similar enough. They're still riding the wave. They're still the same pretty much.
Right.
But they're so very different. Mm-hmm. From day one, you could feel the rift between the two parts of the, the discography.
You could see the line.
There
easily.
is a line, yeah. I can remember.
Fine line.
I listened to all of Vanna.
They defined the great line.
They
man.
did. I just can't remember the name of it.
What'd you say? The grand line.
I
Define
did.
the grand line.
It's awfully grand. It's a grand album.
Yeah, it's a grand album, man.
But yeah, I mean, I listened to all of Vanna before y'all did your podcast, so I didn't know about member changes or whatever, and I thought, man, dude fell off a wagon or something, or I don't know what happened.
You get kicked in the head by a horse? What happened?
This is a huge change here. So yeah, I agree.
He tried eating that horse that you rode in on, and it kicked him in the head.
There you go. Now we wrote a whole new album for him.
Yeah. I felt like I was going to say something else about it, but I mean, again, I don't hate everything that they did once he left. I mean, there's a few songs here and there that I like.
Oh yeah, just as
but yeah, overall,
standalone albums.
I don't.
It's
know
not what I'm going to go look and listen to.
I'm not seeking out Void.
No, not
I'm
really.
in the mood to listen to Void today.
Yes.
No, that's not happening. But maybe you are. I don't know. You listener, maybe that's what you like. I don't know.
If that's your flavor.
Speaking of those last few albums, Eric.
Oof.
Go ahead and, I mean, you kind of already have a little bit, but can you expand a little more on your opinion on their last 3 albums in the discography, The Few and Far Between, Void, and All Hell?
So I think I've already pretty well stated that they're not my favorite half of the discography.
Correct.
When I was listening to it the first time through, when I hit that point when I was telling you about that, felt that difference, like, wow, something's different here.
Right.
After that, I really started listening to lyrics too. And I was like, man, this word can't come to mind, like try hard. And
okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard that terminology,
No.
calling somebody a try hard.
No.
And well, I mean, they always are trying to upstage you, do one better, being a try
Are they
hard.
forcing it? Would that be another
Yes.
way? Okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I was feeling like, these lyrics don't feel natural. They don't, like flow. They're just.
So if I put yours together with what Josh said, it's a try hard sad boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's where the lyrics were feeling to me as far as like musically, I don't think it was all off or anything for me.
I thought it was good.
But lyrically speaking, that was where it really didn't hit for me as well with lyrics.
Yeah. I told Josh this, he was in a band before, that Davey, that is, the vocalist. He was in a band before Vanna, I think it's Seeker Destroyer or something like that. I haven't been able to go back and listen to it yet, but I was always kind of interested. He's going to sneeze. No? Okay. I was always kind of interested to hear like what their sound was, because I always kind of wondered if maybe what he did by the time we got to like Void and All Hell, like that style, I wonder if he did that in Seeker Destroyer, and then when he got over to Vanna, it was more of, hey, I'm just here, and Evan's kind of writing the music, and I may be contributing a little bit, but not as much as by the time we get to like Void and All Hell. And so I wondered if he kind of like reverted back to maybe what he did before. I don't know, because again, I need to go back and listen to his original band and see what the deal is. As I like his vocals when he first gets in there on Honest Hearts EP and even The Few and Far Between. But yeah, I really like Sending Vessels off of Honest Hearts. That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one, man. That ending though with the lyrics, send this vessel out to sea, I'm not the man that I used to be. Oh man. And then just the way they end the song with that. Oh my goodness. It's a good one. Okay, before we wrap it up here with your favorites, I'm going to ask you the final trivia question here. Are you ready? He's sweating.
Definitely
I can
not.
see the sweat.
Beating
pouring.
up, falling off.
Oh no, he's taking his shirt off. No. Okay, so let's see if you can go 50% here on this episode. What is the name of the side project guitarist Evan Pharmacist left the band to focus on? Oh boy. It's an acoustic solo. I don't know if that'll help or not, but and we did talk about it on the podcast several times. Actually, I think we talked about it in several different episodes. So not just Vanna.
Well, I can't remember the exact name, so I'm just going to say City and Color.
Oh, so close, so close.
Dallas Green, right?
That's a good one. No, Wind in Sails was the
okay.
band name. Does that ring a bell?
That does ring some bells.
Yeah. Have you checked them out yet?
I don't think I have
You
yet,
should
actually.
check them out. It's good. I mean, I don't know if I could say either one is better to me, City and Color or Winds and Sails. I mean, they're both good. But I really enjoy Wind and Sails a lot. So, all right, Eric, you're off the hot seat for this episode.
Well, good, because it was spicy.
0 for 2.
Feeling good.
Boy, not a
good.
good start. I'll see if he can redeem himself on the next episode. Okay, Eric, the floor is yours. Give me your favorite album, songs, lyrics, and if you got any riffs, I'm always here for it.
So, we'll start with lyrics, I guess.
Okay.
So I really like, this is from She's a Real Battle Axe.
Oh.
And inside these walls, the ghosts still talk of death and beauty, of times long since past. Don't forget your past.
Nice.
And, thinking about the two halves of the album discography, they might have forgot their past.
They forgot their past. They did not heed the warning.
Of their own mouth.
Of their own mouth, man. And the guy who said it in the unclean vocals was there in the second half of the discography, so he must have forgot.
Oof, man.
Yeesh.
So the next one's off of Vanishing Orchestra.
Okay.
Give my blade your wings, find their hearts.
Nice.
They do have some fantastic lyrics
They do,
just sprinkled throughout.
They do.
And so one of my favorite riffs is from She's a Real Battle Axe. The intro, those stacked up guitars just getting it.
Oh, that's good.
Oh.
Yes, that's a good one.
Oof, just
That's a good one, man.
warms my heart.
That's the finisher, isn't it, on that album? I think
believe
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good finisher, too.
Yeah.
Although,
So-
I mean, Josh did make the point, too. He feels like they could have finished, or they should have finished on I Am the Wind, You Are the Feather, just because of the way that I think the song ends, too. And I would agree with that, but She's a Real Battle Axe is a good way to finish it, too.
I like Battle Axe, so that's a good song.
That's a good one.
So favorites overall, right off the bat, first listen through, Curses was it.
Okay.
Then I went back through and listened again, and I think New Hope was it. As far as full-length albums,
New Hope's a good one. We didn't really talk about that one.
New
a
Hope
whole
is a
lot.
good
That's
album.
a good one, man.
Like, actually, full-length, I think that's probably my favorite.
Yeah,
That is as of today.
right.
Tomorrow that could change, could go back to Curses. I kind of bounce between the two. But I think The Search Party Never Came is probably my favorite compilation of their songs.
The OG, man. You
It
cannot
is
go wrong
fantastic.
with the OG. Speaking of New Hope, I had it in my notes and I deleted it. There's so many questions that I put down that don't even make the podcast because it's just like, it's either like, I don't really want to, that doesn't really seem like a question. It just seems like me stating something, or it's just this deal. It's like, you didn't make the cut. So picking it up off the cutting room floor here, New Hope, specifically Evan's clean vocals at times, made me think of two guys. It made me think of Shane Toll from Silverstein, and it made me think of Anthony, I can't remember his last name, from Bayside.
Oh, yeah.
There was times where it's like, are they making a guest vocal on here? I'm like, no, that's just Evan. It's like, that's really weird. He sounds just like those guys on this one. I don't know if it's just the way like his vocals came through the production, or I don't know. It's just kind of interesting at that point. But yeah, we
definitely.
didn't. Man, we barely gave New Hope any love on this episode. That's a really good album.
It is a really good album.
It's a good follow up to Curses, man, for sure.
I mean, as good as Curses was,
Oh.
I don't feel like we talk about a lot. After a good album, sometimes it drops.
Yes.
I feel like they didn't drop anything. They kept the hype going. It didn't necessarily go uphill necessarily.
Right.
Like a lot of times you'll get, one hype album, then the next one comes out and it's like even hype.
Right.
And then you get the next one, it's like, where's the mountaintop end?
Right.
And these guys, they hit a really good high note with Curses, and then they kept it going, trucking straight along in A New Hope. So
To quote Davey Havoc on our current episode of the History of the Chorus podcast about AFI, he talks when they were preparing for their new album in 2009, the follow-up to December Underground. It's called Crash Love. He came out with a quote. We kind of discussed it, me and Josh did on this last episode, and I would be interested to see how he was really trying to word it. But he said about Crash Love, it's going to be the album that they're remembered for. And I told Josh, I said, because he was like, oh, if he's stating that that's their best album, it's not. And I'm like, well, I'm not saying that it is, but I almost kind of look at it as he's saying that he recognizes how big December Underground was. It was like the peak for them, it seems like. At least
everybody
getting
knew
mainstream,
their name.
everybody knew their name, right? And so when you have an album like that, you have an album like Curses, you have an album like Define the Great Line, that next album is going to be the one that people are going to remember you for, because they're going to, if it flops, they're going to remember it. I remember the point that they fell flat on their face, you know.
When you fell from my grace.
Exactly. Yes. Cool. Did you have any other albums, riffs, or anything? You said no.
songs.
You said okay. Yeah, songs.
So number 3.
Okay.
I like to give y'all 3.
Oh, he's giving me top 3. Number 3.
She's a Real Battle Axe.
Nice.
I mean, that's always a good song. I like I said, the way it finishes out that little EP.
Yeah.
That is yummy.
Okay. Delicious.
And number 2.
Number 2.
Coming in strong with The Vanishing Orchestra.
Woo, that's a good like intro too. I
love that, yes. I guess it almost flows straight from the previous song too.
Yeah, because they let it ring at the end of the alarm, and then they come like straight right into that song.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh God, I love when songs blend.
Yes, so much. And then I really like Changing of Seasons. From I think it was New Hope, wasn't it?
Is it non New Hope? Okay, yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Wasn't expecting that one. Okay.
I like the song.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a good song lyrically, and it has a good sound.
Okay.
I like it.
Nice. I like that, man. I like that.
I like to throw a little spice in there.
I like changing it up, man, because most people probably say, "Oh, Dead Language," or or Country Boys, or
oh man, you want to see my original notes here?
The things
there's so many scratches because
no, I don't like that. This day I like this one. They come back
and that's
2 days later.
Vanna,
like, no,
they do for me is that if I'm in a different mood, I can actually say this is my favorite song from them today,
right?
And then tomorrow, maybe not,
right?
But they have enough going on that I can say, I like what they got going.
Right.
And they got something, I won't say for every mood, but when I'm in a Vanna-esque kind of mood, they got it for me.
Okay.
So I like it. It's enjoyable.
Nice.
At least the first half.
Right. Yeah. Disclaimer. Cool. Was there any others you want to throw in there? Or did you go through your own notes there?
I think we got most of my notes done there.
Cool. Well, I've got one more thing. It's not in your notes.
That's exciting.
But we have to talk about it, Eric. Because I've been saving this one. I haven't even said anything to Josh about this.
Oh, no.
You know where I'm going, don't you?
I'm afraid. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to pose a question to you, Eric. Is Vanna making a comeback? Are they on the comeback? Because you broke the news to me that apparently, quote unquote, they're coming back. Why don't you tell us what happened there?
So I was preparing for this episode exactly. About a month ago, I guess?
Yeah, probably about a month ago.
And at that time, I got on Spotify, and I was looking around. I was like, okay, well, here's the songs. Here's what I'm looking for. And I saw on there they had something, what they call the release radar or something.
Yeah.
And I saw it, release radar. Like, they haven't brought anything out since, all hell.
What was that? Was that 19, I think?
It's been years ago.
Yeah.
Several years ago. And I was like you, I'm pretty sure I was like, disbanded is the word,
They're
right?
Done.
We just put that one to bed.
Yeah.
Go ahead and throw some soil on her.
Right.
And I looked and I was like, that's a new album cover. That's not something I recognize.
What was the song called? Midnight or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it doesn't sound out of, place for them. So I sent it over to you.
Yeah.
And it turned out to not be them.
Thankfully.
I
remember getting that text message with the picture. He's like, hey, I think Vanna's back. And I verbally out loud was like, no. Because I'm just thinking, no, because I already know what's happening. Because we already have In Spirit at this point.
So we've got, those guys.
So those guys are doing their thing. So you know who's coming back to be in Vanna if that's true. It's the lineup that they ended up with, at least. At least Davey's coming back, No. Yeah. No. So I immediately said, forget Spotify. I'm going to YouTube, man. I'm going to the old school way here.
Old reliable.
So I looked it up on YouTube, and I was like, oh, thank God. It's just a band called, what was it, Vanna?
Vanna.
Vanna.
Yeah.
Which is some girl
yeah.
singing or whatever. I guess she's doing everything herself, but whoo! I mean, I was scared to death for a second there.
Yeah, I did. I was like,
nope,
what's going on here?
Nope.
Because we got something new to talk about, I guess. Oh no.
Yeah, I wanted to tell Josh that one so bad on on the last few episodes. But I was like, no, I'm gonna save this one for this episode right here and just like break the news to him through this episode. See what he says. Woo! Yeah, that was wild.
It was.
I was glad it wasn't true.
It was a roller coaster of emotion.
It was crazy. We're just like preparing. Yeah, what do I need to listen to? What about this and that? Hey, what have you listened to this new Vanna song?
New what?
New what? Yeah, cool. Any final words about the band Vanna, Eric?
I guess that's about it. I mean, they're pretty good, enjoyable, at least the first half. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty all right.
Seal of approval.
First half of their discography gets a seal.
First half.
It's not like their second half is bad or nothing. The lyrics don't hit for me real well.
He just tells you to listen cautiously.
Listen cautiously, and if you're feeling good about it, go for it.
Yeah.
I think I wrote some notes about recommendations. Like if you were going to get into All Hell.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying they kind of, those vocals give me those Bring Me Horizon type vibes from that Sin Paternal area. And, I think they have a song on there. It's Mutter.
Oh, yeah.
It's very punky like feeling, like almost Sum 41 type feeling.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you like that kind of thing, dude, go for it. I mean, not exactly my cup of tea, I guess, but listen for yourselves. Make your own opinions.
As always, yes.
And, I can personally recommend the first 3, including the first EP, I guess. But those are all great. I could sit down and listen to any one of those albums and not feel like I've been beaten over the head with the horse that they ate or something,
Oh, man, I have been kicked in the head by that horse, man.
So.
Cool. All righty, let's get on out of here then.
All right.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter at @IsSurvivedByPro for news and the latest episode postings. Not just on this show, Eric, but our other shows as well.
Absolutely.
We have the OG, the History of the Chorus podcast. Blah 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 blah. There is also the Red Right Hand podcast, which covered all 6 seasons and then some, and we've talked a little bit about the possible future of a movie about the Peaky Blinders. Yes. And there's also the Throne of the Dragon podcast, which so far has covered season 1, soon to be season 2 of House of the Dragon from HBO. And currently we are talking the Targaryen family. We started from Aegon the Conqueror. We're now on to his children and their children and their children's children and their children's children's children, and so on and so forth until everybody just dies. But also, while you're on Twitter, make sure to follow my co-host at Joshua Lynn Gary. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review and write us a comment on whatever podcast service you're using. And if you want to listen to us and see our smiling faces, head on over to our YouTube page. Just search Is Survived By Productions, and that'll have every episode from all of our shows. Subscribe to the channel. Thumbs up the video. Big old thumbs up there from there. Alrighty, we will catch you in the next episode where we're going to sit down and talk about the band He Is Legend. See ya.